Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is SprinkleBeard. I stream every day about 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want help, if you want to come hang out and be part of the stream, that is the best way to do it. So today, I had a video request, and it's a video request that I'm going to throw out the disclaimer now. I don't actually like this request. The reason I'm doing it is that from a lot of conversations with people, there actually is no other real good video guide for this. So that's the reason I'm agreeing to do it. The reason I don't like it, and obviously you can tell from the title what the request is, the reason I don't like it is that this game for me was a lot of fun. And there's a lot of things that I think people don't realize or don't remember that they saw. This content is going to be super condensed down for players that are like, I just want to rush to the end game as quickly as possible. And this video is not designed to get you into the end game. It's just to take you out of what I consider to be the early game. Early game, mid game, late game, everybody has a different opinion. So first to state what I think is out of the early game, right, means that you will be at a point where you're able to farm content, or you understand what content you need to farm to progress your account. And at that point, everything's kind of up to you. This will kind of teach you the bare bone basics of raid and what more advanced players will try to say to help you out, and the reasons why more advanced players, including myself, will say these things to try to help you out. And some of it is just to save time. Some of it is because it is the most effective tactic available. So without further ado, today's video is how to get out of the early game and into the mid game. Now, soft disclaimer here, mid game from other players that I've talked to requires you to be able to farm certain content, and this video will not get you into that position. However, it should get you into a position that you know what you need to do so that you can get into that farming position. We'll get there at the end of the video. So when you first start off the game, what should be the very first thing that you're trying to do in order to progress from early game to mid game, right? So the way that I think is what makes the most sense is just complete the campaign on normal. What I mean by this is you shouldn't be wasting energy on anything else. It should just be go into the normal campaign, try to beat each level, and some levels will give certain players more trouble than others. Certain bosses give more trouble than others. But your immediate and first goal should be try to beat the campaign. Don't worry about the dungeons. Don't worry about too much else. This would be the fastest way to progress, and at the beginning you have tons of energy, so there's no reason for you not to be able to just plow through the campaign. If you do not have enough player strength, right, if your character is not strong enough, you might need to grind a level or two for experience, something like that. So let's talk about that then. So your starting character, there really is no best character. All the characters are supposed to be equally balanced. If I was to recommend a character, I would actually prefer Elhain as your very first starter. And the reason why is that she has, I'm not going to go into great detail here, but she has 2 AoE clears in her kit. And she's not really designed as a boss killer, but in terms of clearing the campaign, you only have a boss every 7 levels, so ergo, you don't really need a singular boss killer from your main character. And then if you equip her with your life steal gear that you get, you'll get 1 piece each day that you log in for your first week. If you equip her with that life steal gear, she'll be amazing. So then that would be step 2, is take your starter and equip them with life steal gear. I would recommend then, so once you equip them, right, with their gear, I was trying to find a champion who has no gear, so you would come in, equip them with a piece of gear, and then you should upgrade it to +8. You might only have +4 at the very beginning, So you might have to manual +8. So as you upgrade it to +4, you just sit here and click the upgrade upgrade one level button a few times. Like let it run until it upgrades and upgrade it to +8. But that should give your main character enough stats to be pretty much nigh unkillable. Especially if you do like the sword and shield. The sword will give you plenty of damage. The shield will give you plenty of defense. The other items will just be what they are. The other starter that I would say could be better than Elhain, and it's just subjective. There's no true great. Everybody has a difference of opinions on how they organize them. For me, it would be Kale. Kale's actually more designed as a boss killer. He has a bunch of different poisons in his kit, and then he does have a good wave clear tool. So he's kind of a good jack of all trades in that regard. The big advantage Kale has is that you could use him for clan boss, or when you get up to those bosses, or when you get into those first dungeons. He is not just a wave clear machine like Elhain would be. He would actually be a little bit better on the bosses. The reason I like Elhain, and I didn't mention this, over Kale would require accuracy. So you need to pay attention to your accuracy stat. And if you don't have it, you need to put it somewhere in his kit to make sure his poisons land. Elhain, you don't need that. You can just focus on speed, crit rate, crit damage, and then attack percentage, or if you wanted her to live longer, like defense percentage, or HP percentage. But yeah, so for that reason, Elhain or Kale would be the two starters that I would recommend first. Aethel, I think, is perfectly fine. She's not my favorite though. I don't like her kit as much as I like the other two. And then Gallic, unfortunately, he just has a bad kit, so I wouldn't recommend it. So, what champions should you use to progress? So, you do get daily login rewards, and in terms of just being massively efficient, right? Who should you level up? Who should you care about? Who should you use? There are certain champions that you could use that the game either gives you or you can find pretty easily. One of the perfect examples is you could use somebody like Sister Militant. And the reason why is because she attacks all enemies. So all the champs I'm about to name that you could get pretty early on, or you might get from Mystery Shard, the ones I'm about to name, this would be to help you clear content quickly, right? It's not that these champions are amazing. They are good at what they do. They do have good purposes. And Sister Militant would be probably the easiest one you would have access to because she's gray. And then as you get dupes, you could feed them off to make her skills more powerful. Other champions that might greatly benefit you if you were to like stumble across it. Saurus, he is another champion that just attacks all with all of his skills. And as you could get more copies of him, you could use the dupes to feed the original, making his skills more powerful or reducing the cooldown in this case. Again, I don't think these are necessarily the best champions. I personally, on my first playthrough of the game, fell in love with Saurus, and he was a great asset to me for a long time. There are certain rares that you might get that, players will be like, oh my gosh, that character's amazing. So, let's talk about, Apothecary. The thing is, though, we are talking about rushing from that early game to mid-game. And as great as Apothecary is, yes, you would use him, but no, he's not going to, hard push you. So with that being said, the two champions that you get for free, at the end of the first week, you get Shaman. Now, Shaman is not necessarily amazing. However, she is an epic. So she is realistically, the first 4-star champion that you would get. So for that reason, I would encourage using her. Means her base stats are also higher than your Kale or your Elhain or whatever starter you picked. She has a revive in her kit. And she also has a crit rate buff up, which is fantastic. And she also can steal a buff, which is useful in one of the dungeons. So the fact that you would be given a level 4 champion after your first week, she would just be an obvious choice to sub in. She's Force, which covers some of your party's weakness. And then after the second week, you would get Jizo. And again, the reason I'm encouraging using these champions is this would then be a spirit champion that would cover some of your party's balancing, right? So you'd have a reviver and support, and now here you would have a tank, and specifically this tank can put a continuous heal on himself. He can put on a shield and counterattack buff, which could be really amazing on your starter. And then last but not least, he just has double attack, which can be useful to you. And again, as when you're starting off the game from the very, very beginning, working your way to mid game, the fact that you get a free set of armor to go along with him, which is the counterattack set, or you could put that on your other character, Shaman. There we go. Put it right on Shaman. I don't think she would be best with the counterattack set. The thing though is the counterattack set is a 4-star set when you get it each day for your second week of playing the game. So by putting that set on somebody like Shaman, you're making her very bulky, and having your reviver be bulky would be fantastic. Last but not least is you do get War Priest when you beat the first 7 levels of the campaign, and I went into the wrong section. So you get War Priest. This would be the last person that I would heavily encourage using, and again, just to get from your super early game to your mid game. Because she's Spirit, she shores up the weakness that you have by using just your starter Kale. But then she also has an attack boost on her kit. She has a heal on her kit, and then she has a potential freeze. The freeze is not very dependable unless you invest accuracy into her. I would personally not invest accuracy into her because that chance is just so low. But you know, if accuracy falls on her, no big deal. But this would give you a healer, a reviver, and a tank to go along with your starter to get you from that early game to mid game as quickly as possible. So the next piece of advice, right? So we're just trying to rush through the campaign. We want to get to that mid game where you're allowed to do everything, and you can pretty much do everything by the end of your first week. But when we're talking about, no, I want truly everything open to me. I want nothing off limits to me. That kind of mid game where you can start exploring at your own will, or you could potentially be efficient at it because you would have some of the rewards from the campaign, stuff like that. The next thing that I would recommend is level up all your gear. So all your gear, I'm going to show a champion off that does not have perfect gear. Level up all your gear to about plus 12. So your Kel, who has the vampire, Kale or Elhain, who has your vampire gear, and then whatever other champion has your counterattack set, you should be leveling all their gear up to plus 12. This will give you the biggest bang for buck. This means that you won't be spending it on any of the campaign items. Anything that's 1 or 2 star, you just want to toss anyways. It's all going to be garbage. And again, this guide is for you to not stay in one spot and grind unless you have to. So I'm not going to mention things like go and get a speed set, which would help you overall, but you would have to grind for it. So we're just talking about getting to the end as quickly as possible. So if you've upgraded these 4 champions that I've named, 2 epics, 2 rares, and as you are leveling them up, you would be upgrading their gear when you have enough silver to do so. Upgrading their gear to plus 12 will have enormous benefits. Here's a perfect example of a really bad roll. It rolled a 1 in everything, but the stats increase, so that's the other reason to go 12. And then if it's a blue item, you unlock a new stat spot, which would be amazing. Even if it's flat defense, it's still extra stats that your character didn't have, and the base stats that you get from making something plus 12 is amazing. So if you've done that, and let's say your War Priest is already max level, right? She's level 30, so you no longer can level her up. So here my Wanderer is level 30, and you can no longer level them up. The next thing that you would want to do is start leveling up food. And by food, we mean champions that you were planning to only sacrifice to just to sacrifice to rank up another champion. So what we mean by this is if you go into your tavern, go up to upgrade rank here on the right, and then you would find your champion who's at their maximum level. So here I'm going to use Source as an example. But you would want to have food that you can sacrifice to him. And the reason we call it food is chickens is the most common form of food in this game. So the community has just started calling them food. But your goal would be to get your Kale or Elhain to 60 or 6-star as quickly as possible. So when Kale starts off at rank 3, at rank 3, it will take you 3 champions to sacrifice him to get him up, and they all have to be 3-star champions. Now, does this mean they have to be rare champions? No. You can absolutely use chickens. You can use a gray that you've ranked up several times. That doesn't matter. The important thing is, though, you want to get your Kale in that vampire set, or Elhain, whoever your starter is, to 6-star as quickly as possible. The reason that the community heavily encourages this is that way when you go into 12-3, which is kind of the best well-known campaign farm, and the reason why is it is the best experience that also drops the best money. The other place that you would go is stage 6, because stage 6 is the best experience. So if you are just trying to level up champions, you do not care about the silver that you get, then stage 6 would be best. And that's true for every campaign level. So stage 3 here would have the best money, 4 also having the best experience. But if you want the true best experience, you'd go down to stage 6. Getting to a point where you're getting the most experience and getting your Kale up as quickly as possible, eventually what you will do is a food run, which means that you take your campaign farmer. So in my case here, I'm showing off Skull Crown, and then you would have 3 pieces of food. So as you saw, I was leveling up some other food. But let's say I was doing this with you guys. Here I would level up these 3 2-star champions, and when they are fully level 20, I can then go into the tavern, sacrifice 2 2-star champions to each one of these, making each of these guys a 3-star, and then there's my 3 3-stars for my Kel or my Elhain, and I can rank them up. The next thing, right? So let's say you get through the normal campaign, right? You followed my advice. It worked out perfectly. You didn't have to grind for anything. You didn't have time to play the whole entire campaign on day 1. So you were, chipping away at it as you played through the game. What should you do after you beat normal? Should you go back and 3-star everything on normal? No, absolutely not. It's going to be very time consuming. Your Kale might be able to do it, but it's a lot easier if you keep ranking him up. Move on to hard. Again, we are going for the concept of we want you out of the early game as soon as possible for this video, and we want to get just to that late game, or that mid game, pardon me. So you should start going through the campaign on hard. It's not significantly harder. It is slightly harder, and you might have a level or 2 that you struggle with, but it's the same concept. If you have leveled up your gear and you have a well-balanced party, like 1 person from each affinity, which in this guide you've been coached to do so, you should breeze right through hard, just like any of the other content. Pushing through hard should be an extremely easy thing to do with the gear sets that they give you right off the bat, with some of the daily bonuses and stuff that they give you right off the bat. If you want to help your progression, something you could do is go into your tavern, go into skills, and then you would find your starter. I do not have a starter pulled out, so I'll just use Painkeeper here, but then you would want to feed them blue books to upgrade their skills. And on Kale and Elhain, that will just increase their damage a butt ton. So it should help you get through content much faster. So, now that you're in the hard campaign, or what would you do, trying to exit out of the hard campaign? Because same thing with hard campaign, you're going to be trying to get to 12-3 as quickly as possible. 12-3 or 12-6. 12-3 is kind of the go-to because most people complain about needing silver. So that's why majority of players use 12-3. So on 12-3, you get to there on hard. You start playing through that and you're leveling up more food. And you're rolling up that food so that your Kale, and only your Kale. So you don't want to rank up your War Priest. She doesn't matter. I'm sad to say it, but she doesn't. This is just to get you as quickly to that mid-game content. You want Kale to be level 6, rank 6, as quickly as possible. So getting to this shield is kind of your best experience in the game, and will take you the farthest, right? Once you have done all that, the truth of the matter is you kind of just jump to Brutal at that point. Now, Brutal is where the game really does care about your party, teams, and whatnot. Certain levels will seem easy, and they will get harder as you get deeper in. Or, you might get to the first level, but then when you get to 3, you start getting your butt kicked. So you might need a balanced party. You'll see how things go. The next concept that you would want to do is you would want to have 5 champions at this point, and these are ones that you could have pulled from mystery shards, ancient shards, void shards. This depends if you've spent any money. My guides are intended for free-to-play players, so you've probably earned some of these things along the way. You would want to then, if you're working on getting Kale to 6-star and you're like, okay, well, what comes after this? Because that's all I've been doing. I've just been grinding Kale and food. What would I do next? The next big step is to pick 5 champions for a somewhat balanced party, and you would want to start assembling a 5-man team. And even though the campaign only allows a 4-man team, the reason you want a 5-man team is for things like Clan Boss. There's a lot of rewards in Clan Boss that getting them early, like getting into a clan and just hitting Clan Boss, which means just attacking the Clan Boss that your clan is focused on. Getting some of these rewards daily can greatly help out your account, or have other 4-star equipment that you can be putting on your like War Priest or your Jizo, or depending on who you have equipped with what, or who needs what gear, give that person gear. But it's 4-star equipment, which is very good for the campaigns. So you'd want it for things like Clan Boss, and then we're going to go into dungeons, and then you would want to, with this same 5-man party, and the point of the 5-man party as well that I didn't mention earlier, these 5, you are going to 6-star all of them, right? That is the main goal, is to 6-star this 5-man cell, and then you would go into Minotaur and you would farm scrolls. Now, some of the conversations I've had before doing this video, there has been a great number of players that have said that other streamers have encouraged that when you are leveling up your campaign farmer, it actually would be smart when you have 800 gems, come in here to Masteries, get all scrolls, and unlock using your first 800 gems. I don't really teach that on this channel. I just want to point out that it is a strategy. I don't fully disagree with it either. I think on your starter, on your campaign farmer, doing that would probably be easier than grinding Minotaur. It's a matter, it's up to you. And the reason I say that is because the last thing in my guide is whenever you get gems, you should be throwing them into the gem mine. Once you have your gem mine fully upgraded, all 3 stages, then it would be do the same thing for the marketplace. Get your marketplace fully unlocked, and then after that, you should go into your sparring pit and at least unlock each one. If you're really enjoying the game, I would highly recommend upgrading them up to their maximum. A great many of players that I've talked to, I only know 2 or 3 who ever actually agree with that. That's more for your players that can stay on the game longer, or they can be messing around with this game while they're at their job, or they have a lot more free time to sit here and catch the timers as they're done. But if you're a more casual player, if you're only signing on once or twice a day, no, just have those spots unlocked, and that's going to be the more helpful concept to you. So you got your Kale or Elhain to 6-star. you then worked on your 5-man cell, and you've started getting those 5 up to 6-star, you have either mastered your Kel or Elhain with gems, or you've decided the slightly longer route, but you'll use Minotaur with this 5-man party. Again, this 5-man party will be a lot easier if they are 6-star. You can farm scrolls and stuff without them being 6-star, but it's more difficult for a reason. And getting those characters to 6-star, there's certain masteries they can't use without being 6-star. There's certain gear slots that they can't use without being 6-star. So certain things like rings don't open up until 4-star, amulets don't open up to 5-star, and banners don't open up until 6-star. So that's the reason I encourage 6-star them first, and then you would go back and mastery them. So once you have this your 5-man cell, right? They are all 6-star. They are all fully mastered. So this now means that you can do things like clan boss. This would also mean that you could go into dungeons, and now you could explore pretty much any of these dungeons because you would have a 5-man party that potentially could take on any of the clan bosses, any of the dungeon, or not any of the clan bosses, taking on clan boss, taking on any of the dungeons. Maybe you would start potion farming and start ascending your champions. So once you get those potions, you would go into your tavern, go to ascend, and then whatever your champion is, let's scroll way down here, you could ascend them using potions. This just gives them higher base stats, and some things like the banner require your champion to be 6-star ascended. Once you have done all of this, right, I would consider you out of the early game. At this point, I feel like you would know like what you need to do for summoning and stuff like that. At this point, you should be able to be capable of looking at the events and understanding what you need to do for an event or for a tournament, and to earn some of the extra prizes. Things like clan boss will also earn you extra prizes. Going into your clan, checking in daily, and when the chest is available, clicking that chest would give you daily prizes. This would be what I think is the quickest way from early game to late game. No stopping, no slowing down, no wasted energy. Just, I want to get to what I think is mid game. And in all honesty, too, that is not mid game. Mid game, I would better define, along with a lot of other players. They say around any of the keeps or any of the dungeons, getting down around like level 13. And as you can see, the boss here is level 145. You also might not have the champs, even with a 5-man party, that could farm stage 13 of Spider. In this case, you need a specific team for that. The point, though, is that with this 5-man party, you would be capable of doing some of the dungeons and seeing where you can get certain gear from, where you get certain potions from. Also, at this point, this would be, if you don't know what to do, things like the challenges and missions. The missions act like a tutorial system in this game. They're actually really good, and they will teach you things like, if you grind this level, you're grinding it for this gear, or you're trying to grind for a 3-star item. But because of the way that this guide is set up, you're not dependent on grinding, stuff like that. Typically speaking, when you go from this early game to mid game, Dragon's Lair is considered the easiest dungeon with some of the best gear, being like speed, accuracy, and then just depends on what else from there, lifesteal. But yeah, that is going to be our video for today. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. Again, if you would like to join us on Twitch, it is twitch.tv/SprinkleBeard. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope it helps. I feel dirty. We're done here.